Hi, T'Neil. We're so excited to have you on the Skirted Professional podcast today. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. It's so good to be here.
Oh, we're just thrilled that you agreed to this. We know you are a very busy person and juggle a lot in life, so we're really excited to hear about all of those things today.
Well,
So
thank
why
you.
don't
I'm happy to talk about it. We'll see.
So let's start from the very beginning. Let us know who T'Neil Walea is.
All right. Well, I am first and foremost a wife and mom to three little children. So my daughters are 9 and 7, and my little boy is 1. And so Tyler and I have our hands full. I am also pastor's wife at First Church and love serving there and doing life with the people there. But I'm also the industry chief technology officer at IBM for the federal and Department of Defense spaces.
I'm going to need
I
you to
work with.
email me that description.
You want me to type it out for you?
Please type it out for me.
All right. So I work with federal agencies and the federal government to establish artificial intelligence and help them use their data for artificial intelligence. So that's my 9 to 5.
Unbelievable. So you work a full-time job while being a mom to 3 young kids and your pastor's wife.
You know, why not?
It's just a thing, right?
We live once, right?
So, okay, what was your journey educationally? What has been your path to even equip you for these roles that you're in?
Nothing. Nothing that I've done for my education has prepared me for what I'm currently doing. So,
Wow.
um, I did my undergrad in psychology from University of Houston, and I was doing marriage and family therapy as my master's, and I was going to be a therapist at I was going through Liberty University,
Right.
and I quickly found out that being a wife and a pastor's wife and a mom, um, therapy was not the path for me. Therapy was a very emotional driven field. And so I had the emotions of being a wife, the emotions of being a mom, the emotions of being a pastor's wife.
Wow.
And I quickly found out about halfway through my master's program, which it's a really long master's program to do therapy, but that the emotional draw it required on me was something I wasn't prepared to do for a career.
Wow.
So I stopped that master's program, and I've started taking online learnings and getting badges and certifications in data science and artificial intelligence, in quantum, in design thinking, and all that has been through IBM's portal. So that is kind of my education. It has not been through traditional means necessarily. The way I got the job is just a complete God thing, but it was certainly not to do with the education that I had.
The qualification on paper, right?
Right, right.
Wow. Wow. So were you interested in, were certain aspects of your training, even of what you did at a university, do you see how pieces of that have tied into what you're doing, or was it completely just a 180?
It was completely a 180. I would love to say that. I mean, dealing with people, psychology helps dealing with
Absolutely.
people. So I mean, like I work with people. I mean, so
Right.
there's that. I mean,
Yeah.
there's that. But no, there is nothing that I went to school for is what I do. And so, but the amazing thing about what it is that I'm involved in is it's considered the new collar of job. It's not white collar, it's not blue collar, it's new collar. And
Wow.
that just simply means you get certifications around it. So,
Okay.
um, like cybersecurity is almost completely certification based because the premise is if you take 4 years at a university to learn cybersecurity, by the time you are in the field, it's already obsolete.
Right.
Cybersecurity moved on. And so the roles that I'm in, it's constantly learning. I'm constantly taking new badging. I'm constantly learning new skill sets. and getting new certifications. And so, as far as what I did at a university, no, it has nothing to do with my job at all. Nothing. Absolutely.
Wow. Wow. So when that door initially opened, did you have a previous full-time job, or were you more volunteering at First Church, as you like to put it? And I love that so much.
So I do volunteer at First Church. I am completely a volunteer. I'm the biggest volunteer. I'm the biggest supporter. Um,
As the
but
pastor's wife, you volunteer.
right, right. Tyler and I just decided that I would work a job because I wanted to work a job. So before, my dad was the district superintendent of South Texas. And so for 10 years, I was the administrative assistant for South Texas. And I
Wow.
ran the events and I did all the back end work of the district. So that was kind of my role, and that was coming to an end. And so I was starting to look for a job, but would have never pursued this job. But what's
Right.
crazy about it, Chloe, is that so at church, I started working in graphics and media, probably, goodness, 25 years ago. I
Wow.
started working, just volunteering, doing all the graphics, all the media and stuff that you saw at our church. And so that progressed, and I kept learning, and I kept, again, teaching myself these skills. Something else that I had no training in whatsoever is animation and graphics and whatever. So I kind of taught myself on it, and I started running graphics and media and animations at Youth Congress. Well, a pastor that is in the UPC saw what I was doing. And when my role as the administrative assistant at the district was coming to a close, I got a phone call from him saying, "Hey, I feel like God is telling me I need to hire you." And I started laughing. I was like, "I'm not looking for a tech job. Like, no, absolutely not."
I'm not your
And
girl.
he said, "Yeah." He said, "No, I saw you work. I saw what you did at Youth Congress, and I feel like you're qualified to do what I'm needing you to do." And I was like, "No, no, no. This is not for me." So I kind of put that on the back burner. And Tyler and I were in a giving service at our church, and we had an evangelist there, and he had made a big plea for an offering for the church and whatever. And so Tyler and I were standing there, and we were just really moved on and really in a God moment. And Tyler leaned over to me and said, "I'm going to write a check for the entire amount in our savings account." And I was like, "You're going to do what?
Yeah,
I'm going to lose my job and you're going to write a check for our savings account?" And this didn't seem like the right
wow.
solution. And
Wow.
and so he said, "Yeah, I feel like we need to." And so, at that point in our lives, to
Wow.
write that check out, we didn't have food to eat that week. And
Right.
so
Right.
we wrote the check out, gave the money, and just started believing that God was going to provide. And I got a call from that pastor again the next week, and he said, "T'Neil, I really feel like God is telling me I need to hire you." And so I heard him out. I listened to the plea, the job description, what it would be like. And it was working at IBM doing cloud computing was what that job was. And so I said, "Okay, God, I'll pursue this. I'll walk through this door because you're opening it."
Yeah.
And so I did 12 rounds of interviews, 12.
Oh my word.
Horribly under. Yeah. And got the job. And when it was time to talk finances, I make monthly the check to the penny, monthly what
Wow.
God told us to give in that giving service. So
Unbelievable.
it was just crazy God thing,
What
crazy
a
God.
testimony. What a
Yeah.
testimony. So there's a lot of things I want to unpack in this
Yeah.
story here, starting with the fact that there's a UPCI pastor who has the credentials to hire someone in that position in IBM.
Yeah. So he is phenomenal. His name is Jonathan Arnault, and you should definitely interview him. I don't know if you interview men, but
I
he
haven't
is
yet, but hey, yeah,
he
he's a
is
started
phenomenal.
professional.
Yeah. So, well, no, doesn't wear the skirt. So
Yeah.
he is a UPC pastor in Gulf Breeze, Florida.
Okay.
and he was the director of IBM Cloud. And
Oh,
I met him at Youth Congress one year just in passing. And he was just, is a brilliant man. And so he brought me on and was my boss for 2 years. And then he left to do a startup around blockchain and
wow.
tracking fuel. So he's incredibly brilliant,
Unbelievable.
incredibly gifted, and God had placed him in an incredible role at such a big company. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And we see this thread on every interview we do here, but when you have that professional that is spirit led,
Right.
oh my goodness, for him to say, God is telling me to hire you. What do
Yeah.
you
It
do
was
with that?
right. Right. And I'm like, I mean, to be honest, IBM, it's it's the world's oldest technology company.
Yes.
Um, but like, it's not everything IBM does is completely behind the scenes now. So you don't ever really even hear about it. But
Right.
it's one of those things that if they went down, the whole world would shut down. Like there would be no credit card transactions or banking.
Wow.
So, I mean,
Wow.
like what IBM does is all back end now. But I'm thinking, like, you want me to come to work for IBM? Like, I don't have tech
Wow.
backgrounds.
Right.
So in my background, you can see over here, I've got an old typewriter. So that's the old
Okay.
IBM typewriter. And so I just got really into the technology of it. I
That's
just think it's so cool to work
cool.
for such an old technology
Right.
company. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, for me, it'd be like, I mean, I know how to swipe a credit card, but I don't know the processing
Yeah,
part.
right, right.
But what a cool testament to, there's a lot of things that you said just there, but even the trust with your husband in that moment.
Yeah,
Like, oh my goodness, that's a
yeah.
big deal. And you just had to, God, we believe.
Oh, yeah. And, and when you're in those moments, I mean, obviously, it was just like, okay, God, what is trust if it's never proven?
So
And over
true.
and over, I mean, even into the role that I'm in now, it was a complete trust thing. Like I'll tell you, like the doors that are opened, it's only God. And that's what I think is so cool about my story is that it's only God. I can't take the
Yeah.
credit for it. I
Right.
mean, it's really cool, but it's not me. It's God opening the right doors.
Right.
And when you're married to the right person and you get to say those things like, okay, I trust you. If this is what you feel, we're going to do this. And he has encouraged me every step of the way to pursue this. So that's awesome.
So in that moment of here's this incredible opportunity, here's an open door, you know, how did you navigate that decision? Like, yes, you've got a man of God telling you, I feel like God's telling me to hire you. I know
Yeah.
you probably prayed about it, talked it over with your husband, but are we supposed to walk through every open door? Are some just for you to hear God's voice?
Yeah. Well, I've had a lot of closed doors in places that I thought would be my open doors.
Wow.
I thought my life would go a certain direction and I thought it would be this certain thing and those doors closed. And so when the door closes, you have to decide, okay, God, open the right doors. And
Right.
that's been my prayer more than just walking through doors that are randomly open. I pray, God, open the right doors
Right.
to where I don't have to make the decision of, okay, this is opened. I don't know if I should walk through it or not. It's open, so I'm going to walk through it has always
Right.
been my new mantra. It's like, okay, God, open the right doors, whatever that looks like in my life. I pray, my only prayer is open the right doors. And if you open it, I'm going to walk through it.
It's awesome. Love that. Wow. That is so needed because it definitely can be overwhelming when you feel
Yeah.
like there's three great opportunities here. And,
Right.
sometimes I think God is just saying, pick which one you want.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
might not be a bad option here.
Right. Right. And ultimately you have to trust that walking through the doors that are open to you, God is with you. And the will of God is that you do the work of God wherever you're at. And
Yeah.
so whatever door you're walking through, know that God is there and
Yeah.
God is with you, and trust that he's got your best interest at heart.
Yeah. That's so true. And I love how you said the will of God is for you to do the work of God wherever you're
Right.
at.
Right.
And in this particular podcast, we talk to lots of professional ladies who are in those environments where that's their mission field, who they come in contact with every day. You were planted there for a reason, and that's who you're called to reach right now.
Right. Right. And I think that's one of the things that we don't realize. We have put such an emphasis on ministry being done in a church building,
Yes.
and going through Bible college and going to work for a church is the only way you can be used in the ministry. Well, that's not even kind of close to being true.
Right.
Um, I'm just as much of a minister at IBM as I would be if I worked full time for the church.
Absolutely.
And the reason is I work with lost people. And so most of the times when you work at a church, you're not working with a whole lot of lost people.
Right.
You're working probably with some pretty saved people. But at a job, this is the only Jesus they'll see. And
Yeah.
this is the only interaction they're going to have with Christianity during their week is what I bring to the table. And so before every single phone call, before every single client call, before I get on the phone with whichever 3-letter agency I'm going to be on the phone with, it's God, direct my steps, order my words, let them know there's something different. And it doesn't matter what you think they're picking up on. They pick up on your presence, and they pick up on the presence of God and the Spirit of God living inside of you through every single conversation.
Right.
So I think it's really a pretty crazy mission field to be a part of.
It is. And it's a high responsibility to be prayed up and spirit led. You're able to have down days. We all are. We're human. We respond to things maybe the way we shouldn't. But when you are dealing with people who are scrutinizing everything you do, your life is preaching how
Right.
you live. You're saying something every day. And
Definitely.
so it's every response, God, help me to have you helping me with that response because it could get real bad real quick.
Right, right. God, I'm going to need you to respond to this right now.
Yes.
There's some situations that, I mean, obviously in the work I'm in, um, artificial intelligence for the federal government, it's a pretty crazy world.
Sure.
And you want to make sure that you are led by the Spirit, and that you are being morally aligned with what it is that you believe, because I mean it can be a slippery slope what it is that that I'm
Yeah.
involved in. And so
Right.
you want to make sure that you are bringing to the table morals to an immoral world, and bringing I don't know what the right word is, bringing your principles and bringing what
Yes.
it is that you value into every situation. I mean, because you can't expect big tech. It's big tech. It's going to be
Yeah.
big tech. And so if you want to change the trajectory of it, you have to be involved in it.
Yes. Yeah. Pull up a seat to the table and add
Right.
your
Come get
values and ethics to it. Yeah,
it.
that's
Yeah.
true. That's
Absolutely.
it's
It's
the
not
only
going to
way.
be ethical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think once they know, okay, maybe I have a more conservative viewpoint on this side, to
Yeah.
get that rounded balance, hopefully even big tech
Yeah.
would want to hear from T'Neil and hear from whoever over here maybe is not
Right.
conservative at all,
Right.
and then form that rounded approach.
Right. Right. Because I'm always going to err on the side of being cautious, because I mean, because it is it's a crazy environment, and you're dealing with things that seem almost futuristic to the
Wow.
average person, and you're trying to develop the ethics around it, and what what it should be allowed to do, and create the laws around it. And that's why I feel like it's so important for us to be involved at every level. I mean, you want to talk politics and lawmaking inside of it. Somebody needs to be
Wow.
inside there learning what it is that we are trying to fight for, and still fight for the rights of humanity and fight for freedoms that we can
Wow.
easily let go of if we're not careful.
All in the name of thinking we're doing good,
That
thinking we're providing a
always,
better service, you know?
always,
Yeah.
always. Yeah.
So walk us through, okay, you're a pastor's wife, you're a mom, you are a Christian. So walk us through maybe your first meeting as walking in as an executive, as an IBM employee now. What is that like being female, being Christian, and being newest to the team?
Okay. So I have this really funny story.
I can't wait.
This is really funny. Like, and I've not ever told it in a public space.
Oh,
So,
yay.
um, so my first visit to an IBM event, we were in Austin, and we were doing an executive briefing. And so I was there with my new team. I had just met every one of them. And so we were having this outdoor event at a hotel that we were all staying at after our big meetings that day. And so it was kind of like a meet and greet. We were just standing outside, and I was introducing myself to everybody. And so I was obviously, something that you learn to deal with is that people drink, and
Right.
you're going to be drinking a lot around you. And so, I get my water, and I roam around with Coke or tea or water, and
Yeah.
just talk to everybody and have fun and try and get to know all of these people. So we're standing outside in this like fire pit area of this hotel in Austin, and it's like this real kitschy hotel that's got like these big, like it's this old like vintage looking hotel. And so there's this big space in the middle that everybody just talks, and they've got food. And so whatever, we're standing out there, and I'm introducing myself to everybody, walking around the group and trying to navigate this crazy new world that I'm in. And so I from across the lawn, I saw somebody walk into this big area, and she was wearing a denim skirt. And I thought, huh,
Oh, boy.
funny, there's not a whole lot of denim skirts around. And so I thought, okay, well, that's neat. So I'm
That's
kind
my
of,
girl.
yeah,
Over there walking towards me.
right. I kind of try to look, and I thought, okay, I don't recognize who that is. She was clearly Pentecostal, but I didn't recognize her. And so I was standing there, again, surrounded by people that are drinking, and
Right.
some of them were drunk at this point. And so, I'm just shining my little light, trying to be, chill. And then I look, and I see somebody else joined her that was also wearing a skirt. And I thought, okay, there's a Pentecostal family staying at this hotel.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm trying to see if I knew him, because if I knew him, I wanted to go make sure and be like, look, I'm at a work event. Like,
Right.
this is, I wanted to go ahead and get my narrative out there before anything
Here for fun.
Neil, we knew.
Right.
So,
Right.
anyway, so I was looking, still didn't recognize anybody. And so I was turning, and I turned, and I was having a conversation with a coworker. And when I turned back and looked over there was about 45 girls in skirts. And I thought, oh my goodness, what is going on today? So I excused myself from the work event, and I started walking towards all the group of young people that were obviously Pentecostal. And I heard, T'Neil! Oh my goodness, T'Neil! And sure enough, a girl from my church was in the group, and it was an AYC trip that they were doing in Austin. And I said, oh my goodness, what are y'all doing here? And they were like, we're here for AYC. We're reaching Austin. And I was like, that is awesome. I was like, I'm here on a work trip. And I was like, so if you see all my coworkers up there, I just want to know that I'm here on a work trip.
Oh my word.
And so the crazy part was, I excused myself. I talked to everybody that was there from the AYC trip. I went back to my hotel, and the hotel, I was on the bottom floor. And so I was looking out over this lawn. And so like I called Tyler, and I was like, okay, I'm going to put you on FaceTime right now, and I want you to see here's all my drunk coworkers. And right here is the AYC trip that's going on
With a girl from your church on it.
with the girl from my church. And so I just
Wow.
started dying laughing. So the next morning, I walked back into the briefing room and I was like, hey, did y'all sleep good? And one lady was like, well, actually, no. There was a group of people staying next to me that had guitars and they were singing Christian music all night long. And I was like, oh God.
You
So,
had to feel like your world
oh, they just
collided.
completely collide. And it's like, what are the odds
Oh
of an
my,
AYC trip
right.
staying at the hotel that I'm out on my first work trip? Like, it was
Oh,
hysterical. Like, so from day one, my worlds collided. I mean, like, day one. And so
oh my word.
anyway, you just have to realize that I mean, in that moment, I had the opportunity to be like, okay, I don't know these people, or
Yeah.
it's my church people and they're saying my name. And so, it's an
Wow.
opportunity for me. I used it as an opportunity to tell every AYCer that was there, look, we're called to be in the world, not of the world. I'm here with a group of coworkers. They aren't Christian yet. But we're going to work on it. And it was cool. I mean, it was, looking back, it was the funniest moment. I've had several of those moments. Another one, Times Square, was there for work, group of coworkers with me. They were all plastered. Sure enough, a big Hope Corps, which is WPF's big AYC thing. They were all there, and I heard my name, and I thought, no,
Get away from it.
like, we're in Times Square. Come on. So anyway, it happens, and you just embrace it and go with it. So
And I love that you said it's a teaching opportunity.
it is. It sure is. I would love for young people to know that. If I could tell them one thing, it would be that you don't get to hide from the world. You have to be part of it to reach the light.
Right. That's so true. Wow. So, going into these settings with people who are obviously very much different from you, do you feel like your opinion is as valued as the next person?
Definitely. So, the role that I came into IBM with, my peers are all 10 to 15 years older than me. And then the role I'm in right now, it's a predominantly male dominated role. Sure. Especially dealing with the market I am. So my team is made up of, each market has an industrial CTO that covers it. So there's a healthcare market, there's a retail market, there is a government market, but I am the federal market. So, I mean, obviously, every time I walk into a space, I'm walking into a group of men, predominantly men, but then a lot of military, because I do Department of Defense, and so it's a lot of veterans, a lot of military people, and so honestly, when I walk in as a woman, a feminine woman, not trying to be masculine.
Right.
Walk in as a feminine woman in a business suit with a skirt. It's so rare these days that honestly, just walking in the room changes the dynamic.
Right.
Because they're not used to overly feminine women being in this space. And so to walk in and to be a woman of God and walk in and command the respect of a group of men that are generals, that are directors of 3-letter agencies, it's a different dynamic. They're not used to it. I mean, they're not used to very many women being in the space. And so I feel like God has given me I definitely use that to my advantage. I walk in as a woman and I've got a different perspective than you do.
And I love that you're already separated in being a woman. And so, not that you would ever shy away from wearing a skirt or that you look different, but you're already different.
Right.
It's not like a room of women that's like, why is T'Neil always so different? It's you're already different being female.
Right. It's rare that I walk in. I never walk into a room that's majority women. it is predominantly men and maybe a
Mhm.
couple women. And so, I mean, I just, I've always been very secure in who I am.
Yeah,
I'm not wearing pants it doesn't
sure,
phase me. I
sure,
just, that I don't struggle with that pressure. And I realize that a lot of people do, but that's just never been something that I struggle with. I am who I am. I'm totally fine with it. I'll fight you about it if you want to fight about it, but I don't feel the need to. I don't mind standing out.
sure.
It doesn't bother me. We're called to. So
Absolutely. Something my husband and I were discussing the other day is because I've always worked in that secular environment, went to school, I was the only apostolic on my campus. I mean, every part of my life, I have been surrounded by people who live life differently than I
right,
do. That I'm to the point now where I am uncomfortable when I do fit in.
yeah, definitely,
I
definitely.
mean, going to a work party and they expect Chloe to have water or Coke in her hand, and then she does. It doesn't faze me that they're doing things differently.
No, and they want you to be separate.
Yes. Oh,
They
they
don't
would
want you to
they would
change.
fall out if
Oh,
we changed
definitely. They would
what
be
our values were.
they would get on to you, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
Like, I remember being in college, and one of the guys sitting next to me was like, "T'Neil, your skirt's a little short today." And I'm like, "Good for you. You're not even a Christian. Like, you don't even face like." He's like, "It's a little bit short." And I'm like,
Oh,
"You know what? Leave me alone."
you are male. You don't wear
Thank you.
skirts,
Thank you.
and you're not a Christian.
Like, to my knee. Like, it was not even above my knee, but it was just like it was a little bit shorter than what he
It
was used
will.
to wearing. And I'm like,
Oh my.
"Just a little bit uncomfortable." I'm like, "Really?"
Right. Because they learn to value who we are and
Absolutely.
what we stand for, and they respect
Absolutely.
that. And part of
Definitely.
this podcast, it's called The Skirted Professional, which can be a physical garment, but it's also being skirted in professionalism and
Right.
Christianity. And to skirt something is you're surrounded in it.
Absolutely.
And so every day we're surrounding ourselves as professionals in God's spirit, in his
Right.
presence. And wow, what a change of environment that can bring to any boardroom.
Absolutely. And like you said, Chloe, I've gotten to the point where, I've been at IBM for 4 years now, and I have gotten very comfortable being a light and not being surrounded by people that look just like me.
Sure.
And, we pastor a church that has every level of member at our church. And
Yeah.
so you've got some that are brand new, and you've got some that have been in this all their lives. And yet it's a growing church, and you see diversity in that. And I feel like that's a safe place to be. I feel like
Wow.
when people are coming in brand new and growing through to full truth, that's the kind of place I want to be in. And I want to be comfortable with people that have not yet arrived in their journey yet.
Right. That discipleship process, it's
Absolutely.
all different along the way, but so key.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I think I'm curious to know, and others would be as well, but with all these key roles that you're playing out here, what does a normal day look like of you balancing work, family, church,
Yeah.
husband, common life?
Yeah. So, I mean, a day in my life is Tyler and I get up very early. We drink coffee, and then we wake the girls up and get them ready for school. And he takes them to school while I get York up and I get him ready. And generally, we go to the church. So I work remote, and I've always worked remote. And so, what's so cool about our world that we're living in is there's so many remote opportunities these days.
Yes.
And I think it's phenomenal because it allows working moms to really be um, a thing, much more of a thing. And so for me and Tyler, we get up, get dressed, and we go to the church. And so I go sit in my office at the church. And when I have calls scheduled or when I need to do work for IBM, I go sit in my office, shut the door, do the calls, and he's at the church working. And then our lunch break, I walk out of my office and go eat with all of our staff and
Awesome.
have church conversations, live church life, and enjoy the time together. And then I try to always attend staff meetings. So I'll put a 2 hour
Awesome.
block on my calendar for
Yeah.
church staff meetings, so I can be actively involved in that. And so then when that's done, I go back into my office, work IBM work, and right up until this point, I mean, York is one. Um, he's still with us, like, so we don't have anybody keeping him yet because
Wow.
by the time we get up and get to the church, he's ready for a nap. So
Yeah.
Tyler and I lay him down for a nap. Well, then by the time he wakes up, I mean, I've worked 4 hours at that point. So, I'll give him to Tyler. Tyler goes and gets in the line for this, pick up the girls, and he takes York. So then I have a few hours, about 2 hours there to focus on IBM work to work. He
Yeah.
picks up the girls. And then when we all come home and we're home together. And so, our evenings generally are eating with people from the church or doing a small group or doing family time exclusively here at the house. But I always have my evenings free because, again, I work in federal space. They work federal hours.
Yeah.
And so they're not working late. And so I rarely have to work late. And by that same token, I rarely have to get up super early for client calls because it is federal hours. And so
Awesome.
it's worked very well with my schedule. And then, I mean, obviously the weekends are completely church centric. Saturday, typically Saturday is our family day that we don't do much on Saturdays as far as getting with people. We really focus on taking the girls to do something fun. Like this past weekend, we went and did high tea. They love going to high tea. That's like
Fun.
their diva bougie, all the girls things. Um, Tyler took the girls and my in-laws kept York. But we went and had high tea together and went and picked out some Christmas stuff. And so we just really, Saturdays are our family day. We don't commit to a whole lot on Saturdays. And then Sunday's church and start back Monday morning.
Right. Wow. That's a lot going on, but it sounds like you mentioned earlier when you marry the right person, and it sounds like it's just
Oh,
teamwork
definitely.
at
Definitely.
every angle.
Yeah. I couldn't do it without Tyler. I could not hold the job that I have without, first of all, his support, because if he didn't support me doing this, I would have never done it.
Right.
Just bottom line, I would have been submitted to whatever it is that he wanted me to do. But he pushes me like this job. He was like, you need to apply for that. Absolutely. You apply for that. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't do this job. And
You
he's like,
sure?
you can, you go apply for it. And he's like,
Right.
I'm going to help you. Like, we're going to make your resume. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, he's very supportive of that. And, obviously he's full-time pastor. And so his work is very focused and sporadic at the same time. It's like, this is what I'm going to the men's small group right now. I need you to keep York during this lunchtime. And I'm like, okay, so it's a very give and take thing.
Yeah.
And we're getting help with York at this point at the church so that he's getting to the age where he's not happy just hanging
Right.
out. So he wants attention and to
He
play.
needs
So
that full on attention.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Very, very cool. That is a lot to juggle, but sounds like, again, you've got it down pat for the most part and make it work between the family, which is amazing. It's
Yeah. I mean,
amazing.
it's a choice. You choose to make it work or not. And the deal is I didn't want mine and Tyler's entire income to come from the church.
Sure.
I feel like I am capable and I don't have the skill set I mean, I could do things. Like I
Yes.
could be full-time graphics designer, video
Yes.
editor, event planner. I could do all of those things. Um, but my skill set is something that I could be also paid by a secular company and
Yeah.
get full benefits and get a 401k and let the world fund our missions work. So that's how we've
Wow.
chosen to live. Yeah.
Very cool. That is impressive. Very, very cool. So, what has been, would you say, the hardest challenge with your new role or balancing all of this? Can you pinpoint maybe a situation or just a hard time through this?
My hardest challenge was accepting that this is what my life, that this is what I was supposed to do. Um, I grew up in a pastor's home. My mom grew up in a pastor's home. I mean, I've just been in ministry all my life. And, if you would have told me 5 years ago, hey, T'Neil, you're going to go be CTO at IBM, I would have laughed at you
Sure.
because I thought, I knew what my life would be like. And, I always felt like I, at some point, would have a speaking ministry and feel like it was going to be completely inward focused, UPC focused. I pour all my energy into helping our organization thrive and flourish from the inside. And coming to terms with the fact that God had different plans for my life and accepting, maybe my ministry doesn't look like everybody else's ministry, and that's okay.
Right.
And I grieved for a long time. I mean, because like I would be asked to speak at these huge events with John Maxwell or with Ted Cruz or Donald Trump Jr. or all the Ben Carson, and I'm like, but God, I thought I was supposed to speak. You know,
Right. Right.
it was this, and
Wow.
it's still. I mean, like this. It's this still internal, like, God, this is not what I thought. This is not what I thought it would look like.
Mhm.
And coming to terms with the fact that my life is in God's hands and it's going to be whatever He wants it to look like. And I can't grieve. I mean, it was still, like bittersweet. Like, okay, I'm teaching courses at Liberty University for Liberty now.
Wow.
I come in and do courses for them, and I'm like, I thought I would be doing that
Mm.
for Bible college. It's
Yeah.
just that
Yeah.
it's that thing of like, God, am I really supposed to be completely outward focused? And,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know, as somebody that grew up in the ministry and is a pastor's wife, I thought that's what my life would look like. And it doesn't.
Wow.
And so coming to terms with that and saying, you know what, God, if this is the doors you're going to open for me, then I'm going to walk through the doors that you open. And
Absolutely.
I'm going to celebrate the doors that open. Obviously, sometimes I'm like, God, is this really what you want? Really? And
Right.
He keeps opening the right doors and testimony after testimony after testimony of God opening these doors that it's like, okay, God, I'm going to walk through them. You've
Yeah.
opened them and I'll walk through them. And that was for me, that was a hard concept to grasp.
Wow. Well, and I would venture to say you do have a speaking ministry. Your avenues, you're pulling up a seat to the table that our culture has never had an invite to.
Yeah.
Truly speaking on behalf. And wow, yeah, celebrating the right things here. And that's bursting down those barricades of
Yeah.
what ministry looks like. And I agree with you, though. There is a grieving process there when what you thought was planned out for you, it's completely different.
Definitely.
And
And
it's only God given because those doors
right.
keep opening.
Right. And that's the deal. Like, and I said it before, if it was something I could do, then it would be arrogant of me to say it, but
Right.
it's certainly not anything I've done.
Right.
It is I mean, I met the dean of the business school at Liberty University at an NSA event, and so like he and I just hit it off and became friends. And so hey, come see, like
Yeah.
it's just it's complete God situations, and it's like, okay, God, if this is what you want me to do, then I'm going to do it.
Right.
And that was the whole scenario with speaking up there was just, it's like, okay, God, you've opened
Let's
these
do it.
doors, so I'm going to walk through them.
Wow. And I think we a lot of times, at least for me, fight imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like I have no clue what I'm doing on a daily basis.
What?
Like my friend today talked about a meme she saw, and it's someone in their house has a bubble, like a thinking bubble up top of their head, and it says, I have no clue what I'm doing. And then they walk outside of their house, and it's just streets filled with people, and everyone has the same bubble that says,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
it's because these doors are opening, our lives don't look like we thought them would be. We're not even using the degrees necessarily that we have.
Mm.
but look what's happening with it.
Yeah.
It is mind blowing.
Well, it's only of God, and when you
Yes.
realize that, I mean, like the coolest opportunity that I've ever had was I was doing an event with John Maxwell, which I mean, like, I'm sorry, but
That's
I mean,
high
John
level.
Maxwell, and
Right.
so I was doing an event the day before, and he was the next day. So really, our schedules weren't going. It wasn't like I was speaking and then he was speaking, and we were hanging out together. And so I spoke the day before, and then the next day he was coming to that evening event, and I was standing there talking to the dean and the provost of Liberty, and just kind of talking about how cool it is that Liberty University is the only completely self-funded, like they don't depend on any government funding, like
Wow.
they've got, like, it's just Christians giving into it, so they can say whatever they want because there's no
Right.
repercussions.
Right.
And I just said I think it's so amazing and so needed for there to be universities like that that can do that. And he said, so I was at an event, it was 600 CEOs sitting in the room, and so I'd spoken the day before. And so we were waiting on John Maxwell to get there. And he said, "Hey, T'Neil, John Maxwell's running late. Would you mind getting up and saying that?" And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "I just feel like these people need to know that it's really cool that Liberty's doing these things." And I was like, "Okay, sure. Yeah. Yeah." And he said, "Okay, I'm going to introduce you." And I was like, "Awesome." And
Oh
so
my
he's
word.
there introducing me, and I turn, and out of the corner of my eye, John Maxwell walks in right behind me. And I thought, "You've got to be kidding me." Like, I'm about to speak in front of John Maxwell about
Oh
a
my.
conversation we were just having, and you want me to get up and
And
so
wing
I
it,
got up, and
basically.
oh my goodness, I was about to die. I'm like, "You have a Bible written, like, you literally have a John Maxwell Bible." And um so I got up and I spoke, and just cheered on Liberty and whatever, and just said how proud I was about what they were doing. And so I walked off the platform, and John Maxwell grabbed me by the arms, and he said, "I don't know who you are, but you are a phenomenal communicator." And I was just like,
Oh my gosh.
"Oh my God." Like, I was just like, that was it. Like, my life, like, I was about to pass out. And so,
Can
you
I
know,
FaceTime my husband and you
I'm
tell
like,
him that?
can I record you saying that?
Yes.
I need to tell people this. And
Oh my goodness.
so it was just, had I not walked through the door,
Right.
had I done what I felt like my life was supposed to be like, this would
Wow.
have never happened. And
Never
so
happened.
you have to just embrace that God has a bigger picture than what you give yourself credit for, and you just walk through
Wow.
the doors.
And it's a lot of yeses.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Oh
praying,
yeah.
God, open the right yes for me because
Right.
my no means so much, but
Yeah.
it's a lot of yeses and it's a lot of
A lot
trust
of
and
yeses.
whatever's I'm not qualified, but
No,
apparently
no,
you
it's the whole, I
qualify
don't
the
know what
called.
I'm doing, but if you're going to open the door, I'm going to say yes.
I'm gonna walk through it.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Such good stuff. Such good stuff. Oh my goodness. So we're going to start wrapping this up. You've shared so much wisdom, and this is actually going to be our last podcast episode. So we're so excited that you our last episode for this first season, but you're kind of putting an end cap on that. And we're thankful that you came on and did that for us. But we have a question that we ask all of our guests, and it can be the first thing that comes to your mind. It can be funny or it can be serious. But I want to ask you, what
Right.
is saving your life right now?
What is saving my life right now? Coffee. A whole lot of coffee. So I have a baby at home. Like, he's still a baby. And so what is saving my life right now is really strong coffee, brewed in an AeroPress. So I really like Phil's coffee. So I have to ship it
Nice.
in from California.
Okay.
Yeah. So I ship it in, and I make it in an AeroPress. And it's like, an AeroPress is actually made to make espresso. So it is ridiculously strong. And so Jonathan Arnaud, my old boss, who's the pastor, and we were at an event, and a lady came up to him who drinks a lot, and she said, "Jonathan, I'm really worried about you and T'Neil." And he said, "Why?" And he goes, she said, y'all drink a ridiculous amount of really, really strong coffee. So what's keeping me alive right now is really, really strong coffee and
Really?
Jesus. So that's it.
I love it. That wraps it up. And I would say probably about 95% of our guests' coffee has been their
Are you
answer.
serious?
Well, when you listen to the podcast and hear everything they're balancing and juggling, it
Yeah,
just
look, it's a hard day. I'm not getting much sleep at night, and so it's really just coffee.
and you're still having to perform at a high level. So
Exactly. I have to be
Okay.
functional, and so I can't have downtime. So you just drink a lot of coffee, and
I don't want to
hopefully,
hear a word about it.
no, don't you dare judge me. Like, it is nothing for me to brew a pot at like 9 o'clock, and Tyler's like, "Do you need to be drinking?" And I'm like, yes. I'm still not in bed yet. I still need
You
coffee.
need to ask me that question. Oh, I love it so much. That is the perfect response. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on our podcast, and we look forward to this episode going live. But most of all, the wisdom you shared and your journey with us is just incredible, and we know this will inspire so many people. So thank you again.